us back into things that you had to just fundamentally go in there and go.
Really, the first year and a half was a cleanup. I'll be honest. It was mainly a cleanup, and then laying the foundation for, and this is the business side I'm referring to mostly, laying the foundation for the future, which the business and the basketball side, you know, to be honest with you, I was talking about the seat of my pants a little bit, a lot of it based on all these startups that we all as venture guys do for 25 years. You do enough of them, you see everything, and you have an instinct on what you should do in terms of who you should hire, what principles you should follow. And so what we had to do was establish a couple of basic principles. One of them was that we needed to tell the world that we were going to be great. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the first thing I thought of to do, which was to become the face of the franchise and say, look, there is no face. There is nobody else. Even the players, we changed all the players on the team too. So it was to say, this is our goal. We're going to set this goal. We want to be the Lakers and if you know basketball, the Celtics and the Lakers. Celtics were a great franchise in the 60s and so on. Lakers, over many years, have won a bunch of championships. Between the two, 35 titles. 35 out of, like half the titles in the NBA. So becoming one of those iconic brands, one of those iconic performing companies in that field was sort of the goal. And I made a statement. I said, we want to be them and to eclipse them. And I got pretty roundly booed. Later booing. We'll get to the booing.
We'll talk about that.
But got, you know, really, people thought I was crazy, thought I was arrogant, whatever. But it really was more about just saying, hey, this is the goal. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to go hire great people. We're not going to settle ever for anything less, than absolute excellence. And I refer to this phrase, relentless pursuit of excellence, because that is what I tell the organization. That is what I tell the press. It's a relentless pursuit of excellence at all times, all things. Because it's not just one thing that turned around the Warriors. It's every little thing. Every little thing to make an organization, especially for us, we had so many elements they had to turn around, so many things to deal with. It's almost too hard to even talk about so many things. It was so tiring. But we did, and we got it going. And on the basketball side, we made the playoffs in year 3, and we've made it for 4 straight years, and ultimately did win the championship in year 5, which I had promised, rather stupidly, probably, and naively at the time, but we did promise that, and we did win it. But it was because it was a goal, and because we just absolutely, everyone was on the same page.
So set the goal. How do you get everyone to get on that same page? I mean, what is it that creates the culture that everyone believes they can be champions when all you had evidence-wise was mediocrity before?
I don't know if I can answer this other than to say that we just decided that's what we're going to do, and by God, we're going to do it. And we were relentless. And it was 365, 24/7, to borrow a phrase from Silicon Valley. It was all the time, thinking about it every single moment. It was hiring the best people at any time there was an opportunity to hire someone. It was do not settle for less, whether it be the president of the organization, Rick Welts, who was, I thought, the best. I didn't even hire a search firm. I just asked around who were the 2 best guys, and I went after both of them and got one of them. And we did that in most cases in the organization. We did some other things which were important, I thought, which you will, from Kleiner Perkins' background in lore, I think find it interesting because it did borrow from that. One of the first things I did was when you walk in the building in Oakland, we have a downtown office, it was very dark and dreary, and like it felt like terrible in there. And first thing I did was said everyone's walls come out, and we put glass walls in. And they fought me like, you cannot believe it. I said, I don't care what you have to say, I don't care. And the CFO said, but the numbers, they're going to see the numbers on the computer. I don't care. I said, it's not putting anything on the wall. I mean, these are glass walls. And the point of that was very simple. It was transparency. It was a symbol of transparency, and that's all I could think of. I was very single-minded about it. And to this day, you walk in there, everything is, we put skylights in, I know it sounds crazy, it's physical, right? It's just a physical thing, but it was a symbol to the organization, and it did affect mood on a daily basis, actually. And by the way, now everyone throughout the entire organization, basketball, by the way, in the NBA, you'll find this interesting. In the NBA, if you go to most organizations, and I had the fortunate help of being able to be in the Celtics for 6 years, so I got to see a little bit. They separate the basketball business people and the business people. Like they're in separate buildings, and sometimes they actually have locks that you can't get into. One can't get into the other. The basketball guys want complete autonomy. Pat Riley, a very famous guy, I think that's what he does in Miami. I don't know if it's still like that. And there are really reasons for this. I don't know what the history is. But in our culture, we made it from day one. They will be on, basketball people and business people will be on the same floor. We'll interact. We're all one business. That was kind of different for the NBA. And I was just shooting from the hip a little bit, but it felt right. And now, like you go to business meetings in our place, and like we got, our GM, Bob Myers, is not your typical GM. He sits in the business meetings once a week. So he knows what's going on, and he's very interacting all the time. So a lot of cross-pollination, a lot of transparency, a lot of practices that you probably would take for granted and say this is normal in your startup culture, but wasn't and isn't, even probably to this day, I guarantee you, in sports.